Bartlett Board meeting for November 3rd, 2020. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Carbonaro. Carbonaro?
Present.
Dini?
Present.
Danzy? Here. Hopkins? REINKE?
Here.
Swansky? Here. President Wallace?
Here. Requested Pastor Alex Culpepper from Alliance Bible Church do our invocation this evening. Pastor Culpepper.
Okay.
Would you all pray with me, please? Father, on Election Day, we just acknowledge the reality, the amazing gift it is that we actually get to elect our officials. So we thank you for that, and we pray for quick and clear results. And Lord, there are elected officials in this room. And so, Lord, tonight as we come together to just seek what it is that is good for the city of Bartlett, I just pray that you would give the people in this room the insight needed, the wisdom needed, because you are a giver of good gifts. We thank you for those gifts that are represented in our police officers, our first responders, the community service organizations that we have here. And so, Lord, because you're a good giver of gifts, we ask that you would give the gift of wisdom tonight in discussion. And we pray all of these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What time's the 7 o'clock meeting?
Brings us to our consent agenda this evening. There'll be no additional discussion on all items on the agenda that are listed with an asterisk. They'll be voted in one motion. At this time, is there anything anyone would like to add or remove from consent?
Mr. President, I'd like to add item number C1.
Yeah, just a clarification on that. That's something that came in at the last minute. It's additional funding that we received, and it has to be, there's a time limit on it. So, did everybody get kind of briefed on that?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any problems with it? Anybody having problems with that? Anything else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to amend the consent agenda, which will include the minutes from the public hearing and board minutes October 20, 2020, the bills list from November 3rd, 2020. The consent this evening will also include under Building and Zoning Committee items A1 and A2. The consent this evening will also include under Finance and Golf Committee item C1. Consent this evening will also include under License and Ordinance Committee item D1. Under Police and Health Committee item E1. Under Public Works Committee items F1 and F2.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Daney, seconded by Trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee REINKE?
Yes.
Swansky? Yes. Carbonaro?
Yes.
Dini?
Yes.
Danzy? Yes. Hopkins?
Yes.
The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Daney, seconded by Trustee Gansey. I believe, I can't hear from under the muffled of that.
Okay, yes.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Swansky? Yes. Carbonaro?
Yes.
Dini?
Yes.
Danzy? Yes. Hopkins? REINKE?
That motion carries. No treasurer's report this evening. Under President's report, we have a resolution seeking immediate relief from the enhanced mitigation restrictions. I know there's going to be some discussion on this. What I prefer is that I read the resolution, and then we have a motion and a second, and then we discuss whether or not some people would like to amend it. Fair enough?
Yes.
All right. A resolution seeking immediate relief from the enhanced mitigation restrictions. Whereas the Restore Illinois 5-phase regional plan to reopen the state's economy on a limited basis presented on May 5th, 2020 continues to cause further emotional and financial distress for citizens of the state of Illinois and the village of Bartlett. And whereas under the Restore Illinois plan, the village of Bartlett is part of Region 8, which includes DuPage and Kane counties. On October 23, 2020, a mitigation plan for Region 8 went into effect due to having 3 consecutive days in an overage test positivity rate at or above 8%. And whereas under the Restore Illinois plan, the Village of Bartlett is also a part of the suburban Cook County, which is in Region 10. This region transitioned to the same mitigation restrictions on October 28, 2020, due to an increase in the average positivity rate and hospital admissions for COVID-19-like illnesses. And whereas the mitigations being imposed include no indoor seating for bars and restaurants, it is extremely difficult for these businesses to operate and keep employees relying upon carry-out-only service. With winter approaching, the outlook is desperate for many, and the prohibition of indoor dining again will force many to close their doors forever. And whereas COVID-19 cases are rising in Illinois, but the fact is that restaurants are not to blame. Restaurants are highly regulated, frequently inspected, and held to the highest health standards. Keeping people safe is what restaurants do every single day. Closing restaurants for indoor service will result in exact opposite of the intended impact of slowing the spread, as it drives people further into uncontrolled, unmonitored private gatherings where few safety precautions are in place. And whereas individuals should be free to make their own decisions about going to a restaurant or opening their business. Now therefore be it resolved by the President of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Bartlett, Cook, DuPage, and Kane Counties of Illinois as follows. The Village of Bartlett joins the Illinois Restaurant Association in urging the Governor and General Assembly to take a pragmatic, tiered approach to mitigations. Unless the state of Illinois takes a more reasonable approach to mitigation, thousands of restaurants are at risk of permanent closure. Section 2, we also urge the Governor and General Assembly to provide direct financial support to struggling restaurants. Prohibited and or limited capacity combined with the additional costs of PPE and other precautions necessary to operate have been devastating. Section 3, the Village of Bartlett urges the Governor to work with Legislature and Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and various regional working groups focused on economic restoration and recovery. Such action would balance sound public health practices with the need to resume strong but safe levels of business and civic activity. Section 4, severability. The various provisions of this resolution are to be considered as severable, and of any part or portion of this resolution shall be held invalid in any court of competent jurisdiction. Such decisions shall not affect the validity of the remaining provisions of this resolution. Section 5, repeal of prior resolutions. All prior ordinances and resolutions in conflict or inconsistent herewith are hereby expressly repealed only to the extent of such conflict or inconsistency. Section 6, effective date. This resolution shall be enforced and effective upon passage and approval. Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Trustee Daney, seconded by Trustee Swansky. Do we have any discussion?
I believe in supporting our restaurants and our small businesses that have been impacted by COVID. I especially like the language in this resolution about financial support. However, I do not support opening indoor dining against the recommendations of IVPH. I would prefer to look at other options and fight for other ways to support them while keeping the community safe.
Okay.
Just a
I wish
comment.
there were some other options.
Huh?
I wish there were some other options.
Yeah.
Just a comment on what was said. I've been very, very cautious, but we've tried to support the restaurants in our village as much as possible. And when we've gone into the restaurants, after someone has left, we've observed they have taken every bit of precautions that they possibly can, sanitizing the tables, all the servers have been wearing masks, and I support this resolution. I think that these people realize what they have at stake, and I believe that I trust them to do as much as possibly can to keep their patrons safe. One thing that they definitely do not want to have happen is for someone to become infected and then go on social media and say it happened at this restaurant. So consequently, if it were mine, I would do everything I possibly could to ensure that everybody was protected to the fullest.
Thank you, Trustee.
I think we all want to see all the restaurants that we love here in Bartlett stay. I guess I'm just kind of questioning what our overall goal with this is, because I've seen a lot of these letters flow through the media, and I'm questioning what kind of action we're going to get from it. How do we make ours so we're helping our businesses, but also keeping our community safe, because that's also a worry of mine. And I guess I'm I would like to know, like, what our ultimate goal, like, what are they going to do with this? And how could we make it more impactful if we're sending something, but still keeping everyone safe? Like, is there something?
I think the fundamental question for me, Trustee Gansey, is do I need a governor telling me when I can go out to eat? Or do I feel safe enough to go out? I don't need that. I don't need that to happen. And restaurants can choose whether or not they want to stay open or not. That's my issue. And if it's down to me choosing to go out to eat or not go out to eat, that's a personal decision. I don't have to be out in any type of danger. But it's not a decision left up to these restaurants because some of them will close. And that's a tragedy.
Yes.
I'll tell you,
I understand your point, but I still don't believe it's our job to make individual decisions for people.
the restaurants we frequented, they have done a remarkable job as far as sanitizing everything. You know, we'll go in there, we'll take a seat, and if someone leaves the restaurant, they have a server come over and disinfect the tables, the chairs, they wipe everything down. In fact, we tried to get some salt and pepper, and they won't even give us the shakers. Mm-hmm. So that's even restricted.
So I would agree, like I'd like to see a way for them to be open, because I feel like I go to the doctor, and it's everything is like, hey, here you are, you come in, you sit down, you can eat, you take off your mask, you put your mask on to go to the bathroom, and then I agree, if we can keep it, if we knew that, if that's what we're asking, I guess some of the language in here is things I'd like to see changed, like what we're asking, how we're asking it. Personally, I feel like everyone's trying to make the best decisions in a year that is almost impossible to make the right decision. So I guess I'm just trying to think how we can word it a little, maybe change the tone somewhat and offer some other ideas or actions to where we can get back to that. Because I guess, do we think that this is going to end up like in front of the governor, even if that's how most of the people feel? Is it going to end up in front of him and to make a change? And I guess, is there something we could put in here that would make us stick out so we get legislature back or get more collaboration and ideas so we can get the businesses open? Because I'm worried that come Friday, the rest of our businesses are closing indoors.
So I understand what you're trying to get at. I am going to be on a call with the governor tomorrow with about 12 other mayors and discussing this exact topic. I can tell you, just from those calls that I've been on, the vast majority of mayors believe in personal decisions versus a nanny state, telling us when we can go out to eat and when we can't. I don't need a governor telling me when I can go out to dinner. If I feel safe going out to dinner, I'll go out to dinner. If not, that means that the restaurants have that same choice. If they feel like they can provide a safe environment, they will provide a safe environment. As far as I'm concerned, if we have two dissenters, is anybody else dissenting on this?
I don't know if I'm dissenting. I'm hoping we can change some of the language in here.
I don't know how we would do that.
Like, I just feel like the part that says closing restaurants for indoor service will result in the exact opposite. I feel like that's a very subjective, like an opinion.
I think that the fact that he closed restaurants was extremely subjective because he can't point yet to any data that shows that restaurants are spreaders.
If I could add something, I'm in support of this resolution, and I do believe there is still a question in regards to whether the governor has the authority to do this, because he's only under a 30-day shutdown, and the question is whether he has the authority to keep doing this. With that being said, my main concern is what happens to our businesses in town. It's up to the individual to protect themselves when they go anywhere by wearing a mask, social distancing, and let these people make a living. This is where their income comes from. Having the governor tell us that we can't go out to eat, I don't agree with that either.
I'll go back to what I said before. It would behoove them to do everything that they possibly can to protect their customers when they come in. Because the worst thing that can happen is if we visit a restaurant or a resident visits a restaurant, contracts a disease, and they end up on social media. That's a black eye against the restaurant, whether or not they they ended up getting it there or not, you know, but still in all, they're doing everything they possibly can.
To Trustee Gansey's question, the DuPage Mayor and Managers Conference, they have put together a letter asking the governor and the IDPH to share their data more transparently on how they are arriving at the decision to not only create the mitigation measures, but when they're enacting them, you know, what exactly are they looking at? How are they driving the decision that is really targeted at restaurants rather than someplace else? They do have a paragraph in their letter asking that. We could add the same language, if that would make.
Yeah, because I think the tone can change a little bit, because it's kind of, you know, I know people are super upset, but instead of just directing it at one person, like just trying to come together and have it sound more like we're trying to figure out a solution to get our restaurants open. How can we help look at other data to get these open to a point where we do feel safer?
I would have been totally on board with that. Trustee Gansey had the governor 2 weeks ago, came out to all the mayors and said, guess what? Here's the reason why we have to do this. Here's what we're doing, and this is the reason why. He did not do one thing to do that. He just said, close them down. That's it. Next Friday at 12 o'clock, you're closed.
Yeah.
So that was really bad diplomacy, and this is basically what I want to explain that. I want to explain that to him, that the next time something like this happens, here's a shot over the bow saying, give us the information as to why. I don't have any answers for the restaurants. Do you guys? Because there's no data.
No.
So we should be passionate about this. We should be very, very disturbed at the fact that he decided to do this without a single notice to any of the mayors in the area. He could have come out and said, 2 weeks ago, he could have come out and said, hey, you know what, mayors? This is what we're seeing. This is the reason why we're doing this. Here's what we're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah.
Didn't do any of that.
I agree.
And I see this, I see the message of the resolution as being twofold. Well, first of all, it's a resolution, so it's a little bit different than when we pass an ordinance, you know, requiring something or banning something. So I see the resolution, the purpose of the resolution is twofold. One, the communication to the governor. I think the mayor is very passionate. A lot of people are very passionate about the governor's performance or lack thereof. But then the other part of it is, it goes back to the Zoom meeting you had with the restaurants last week, and I was on that call, and we're used to hearing people come to us and be very concerned, right? Whether it's, you know, traffic or zoning or you know, sight lines, business development, we're used to hearing that level of fear. But it was shocking to me, and I knew a lot of those restaurant owners, and they were very upset. So to me, the second part of the resolution is us going to bat for them, letting them know that, you know, whether we agree on the science or not, the village of Bartlett, all of us, we all want to see the restaurants survive as best they can. The other businesses too, but it seems like the restaurants are really bearing the brunt of this. That's how I see this, that we're fighting for them. I don't believe that JB is going to take a look at this and care. Not for a second. Even on the telephone tomorrow, he's not, it's not going to matter.
He's already limited the questions we can ask.
But you know, whether we agree with that or not, that's a whole other discussion. But you know, I think we ought to go to bat for the restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
I agree.
I think to Stephanie, Andy's point, I think it would have been nice to actually have this in committee, talk about it, and to maybe draft some language that maybe isn't so harsh. So I think that could have happened, and we could have had a discussion instead of just having it right before us at a village.
Well,
when we don't have a say so.
Unfortunately, that's the nature of when he sprung this on everybody else. So that's not a village thing. We want to get this out as soon as possible, because this is hurting us right now. And if we wait till another meeting and wait to discuss that, then our restaurants are going to say, did you guys even try? Did you even try to go to bat for us? Well, we did, but we had to wait 2 weeks in committee. So if he would have given us some leeway, Trustee Hopkins, I totally agree with you. I could have came into committee, we could have talked about it at committee and said, hey, this is what the governor is going to do. I think we should draft a resolution. What do you think it should be in it? That's not what happened.
Right.
He said, you guys are closing down Friday at midnight.
Okay.
So what we've done with other ordinances and other things, we've had it in committee and then actually talked about it and then had it in our board meeting. So that is a possibility, but this is what's before us now, so it's irrelevant to go back and forth.
I understand your
This
concerns.
is what we have to work with right now.
I understand both your concerns. If there are any other comments or questions or discussion?
No.
Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
By the way, this is Resolution 2020-109. Trustee Carbonaro?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Hopkins?
No.
REINKE?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
And I do understand you guys' concerns, but one of the disadvantages I guess I have is I'm on these calls, and sometimes you have to be a little authoritative, a little bit more aggressive, because he only reacts to political pressure. Any questions anybody has for staff?
I have a couple of things I'd like to just talk about. I really like recognizing the anniversaries and birthdays, and I'll start with the anniversaries because there's only one. And it's Jeff Ricalis, our Deputy Chief. Are you here this evening?
Yes.
All right. Did you bring any cake for us, or do we have to bring you cake?
Happy birthday, Deputy
Birthday.
Chief,
You served 24 years.
or happy anniversary.
And now we have some birthdays. We have Sergeant Jessica Crowley. We have
Yay.
Joey Dingbird. He's our management analyst. Chris Hofstadler. He's our IT coordinator. Tony Fraden, our economic development coordinator. Brian Goralski. He's our building director. And Sam Hughes, our senior management analyst. Happy birthday to all of you. That's all I
Happy
have.
birthday. Thank you, Trustee Daney.
I have a short story that I would like to share with everybody. Last week, around 11 o'clock with the afternoon news, it was on Channel 7. It was either Tuesday or Wednesday. These are the facts of the little blurb that was on. I don't have any other information other than the mother/grandmother was in a hospital, and the 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters haven't seen her in over a year. Kudos to Elgin Fire Department. They set up a hook and ladder with a 7-person platform. They got on the platform. They elevated the arm of the ladder truck, lifted them up to the window so that they can see grandma, mom through the window, and they waved and blew kisses at each other. It was very heartwarming. Not sure why she was in the hospital, but that was the story. Again, kudos to the Elgin Fire Department for making that magic happen.
Nice story. Good deal.
I just
Good.
I just want to say thank you to the village, the park district, and all the other people that put together that drive-through. I unfortunately got in line way too late, so we didn't get to do it. But I heard wonderful things about it. But I did want to say it led us to another business. We went through the drive-through, Squeaky G's drive-through, and I just want to say I love how businesses are innovating this year and trying to push through and coming up with new ideas for fun. So thanks to everyone here who did that and to Squeaky G's.
Fantastic. I did have a chance to go through it, and congratulations to staff and police department. I know you guys took a lot of flack that night for the traffic, but it was a really well put together event. It was very entertaining, and I got some great feedback too. So good. Hopefully we won't have to do it next year. I don't know how you got the crashed cars and all that stuff out there. That was crazy. Anything else?
That's it.
And town hall portion of the meeting, if anyone would like to address the board, I believe that the clerk has some names. She'll be calling you. Please step up to the podium and make sure the mic's on and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Michael Stapleton?
Your name and address for.
My name is Mike Stapleton. I'm the son-in-law of Vicey Pruden, who lives at 25 Golfers Lane, and we're going to talk about the variance before the board on 630 Golfers Lane. We had a zoning board association meeting, and at the meeting, the commission there decided to they want to recommend granting the variance, and I don't see how they could have done that anyway, because there's 5 reasons to grant a variance. None of them were met, and they're all in the packet. So we're just like wondering how they can even grant it or recommend it to come to the board, because my mother-in-law has stated that she's lived there 30 years. The view of her golf course property, which she paid $12,000 more back in 30 years ago, 1980. What was it? 90. Anyways, it's 30 years ago. So it's going to be obstructed by having this addition put on the next door neighbor's property. And I brought pictures. I don't know if anyone's seen these from before, but I can pass them along if you don't mind. This first one here is
Well, why don't you stand over there and show us all, and then I'll pass them down. Thank you.
This first one here is looking at from her deck to the next door neighbor's deck. Next door neighbor's deck is right here. And sorry I don't have a bigger picture, but it's going to be an addition on top of this deck equal with the line of the roof, which in this picture it shows the next door neighbor's roof. The gable roof comes to the edge of their deck, but the Palmer's deck is going to be further out to the edge of their existing deck itself. So her view, my mother-in-law's view, is going to be totally obstructed from looking to the north. And one of the ZBA members said, well, we can just have the Palmers keep their windows open so you could see through it and not put any blinds or any window dressings. So that should be okay. And I'm like, are you going to write that into the variance? No, I don't think that's going to happen. So that was really kind of a statement that I'm sorry to hear that was on record, but it doesn't make any sense. And the Palmers brought a lot of people up here, friends and neighbors, for supporting them, and which is fine. It's nice to have opinions, but the most important opinion is my mother-in-law's. She's totally impacted. Her health has declined since this all started. She's had several hospital trips and stays for her condition with her heart, and it's totally impacted her physically as well as emotionally. The previous board meetings, they didn't take any of that in consideration. And to top it off, there's so many people at the Palmer's house the Sunday before the meeting. A lot of city officials, even from not city officials, but the members of the commission were there. And how do we know how many were there? Because it raises a question. There were so many there. Isn't that a violation of the Open Meetings Act, which should be investigated by the state's attorney? This raises a big red flag here. So we recommend, speaking for my mother-in-law, that you don't grant the variance, because it's totally obstructive, and it hasn't met the code requirements as far as There's 5 requirements to meet the objective here. So, and I know you probably have it listed somewhere. I don't have the list with me.
Just so you know, it was on consent, so it's already been passed.
When did that happen?
It was on the consent agenda. So we had, I believe we've had a public hearing, I believe we've had ZBA, planning and zoning meetings to discuss this topic. So when it hit our board or committee with unanimous or almost unanimous approval, we pushed it onto the board meeting today for approval. And
Well,
Well, it was in the committee 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, it was in committee. And then the committee is the time.
I was here at that meeting.
Yeah, the committee meeting is when you could come and actually voice your opinion as well. But right now, it's already passed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it Vicky Pruden? Is Vicky Pruden here?
I think that they're leaving.
George LeBron.
Good evening again. Good evening again. I know we met, I believe, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and my fellow neighbors, I didn't know we were having a meeting tonight on election night, so otherwise they would have attended as well. I felt it was necessary. I continued the vigilance that we've been going through for 2 years. We'd like to thank the trustees, the mayor, the administrators of the team here to at least start some traction on the process. I know there was a letter sent to Kevin Morrison, Cook County District 15 Commissioner. I'd like to ask, has there been any feedback from the county yet to your email, Kevin?
What's that?
The email that was sent in your name to Cook County.
I don't think there was, I think we have a report, don't we?
The commissioner's office did let us know that they saw it, that the commissioner saw it, and that he is bringing it forward.
He's moving it forward, so that's really all we got.
So he's moving forward. Okay, I just want to recap briefly, and then I'll get at everybody's way here this evening because you were so gracious last time. You know, there's no subdivision within the village of Bartlett that is a designated truck route like our Naperville Road. It is insane, as we discussed last time. I spoke to several trustees. They've been there. One was almost got in an accident, hit by another vehicle. Another one was there for 30 minutes and couldn't believe all the traffic that was up and down and the safety issues, the dirt, the pollution, the safety of our people in the neighborhood. Mayor, I know you've been there as well. So I really think it's important that we continue to strive to move forward and press the county. You know, with all the expansion, I still feel that there's still lack of vision from previous boards about the expansion in the last 8 years of Brewster Creek and all the other facilities and projects you have going on now, that all the traffic is coming down Naperville Road and all the trucks it's just unsafe. But I've read and I've learned that you have a project next year or in spring where 59 and West Bartlett Road once again is going under some additional construction. And this is where this all emanated from 3 years ago and 2 years ago when you had the first expansion. All those vehicles, especially the trucks, have come down our 2-lane highway that is a residential, not a commercial area, and just flooding our neighborhood. And I'm worried about this new expansion. Where are they going to go? Plus, you have the new medical building that went up on Munger and Bartlett Road. You have new factories along with Fastenal up Munger Road. I'm kind of really reaching out to make sure and see what the village of Bartlett can extend to us beside the county telling us they're going to move forward, because that's been 1.5 years. And I don't know what they're going to offer. But there is some responsibility, I believe, in the village to maybe everything that you do control in the Brewster Creek area, no left turns, no right turns, direct traffic out to 59 and to Route 25. Anything that creative that you people can think of, we would appreciate, because this will be hell next summer again if something's not done with all this additional traffic. I mean, you guys, whoever did it, but our lane turns in from a 2-lane highway to a 4-lane when you get up to the corner of Naperville Road and Bartlett Road. One right, one left, 2 straight. I mean, this is a 2-lane road. And you know all the gravel trucks and dirt trucks and every else 53-foot trailers that are coming down there, and it's time really to, hopefully you guys continue to help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to ask the chief just to mention some of the things that we've been doing out on Naperville Road.
Yeah, we did have a report, because I caught wind that you might be here, so he's got a little information for you.
Been trying to work with Mr. LeBron and his complaints for the last few years. Like he said, ever since the construction started and we saw an increased usage of Naperville Road because everyone was trying to go around or avoid the construction. So between July of 2018 and this evening, between speeding enforcement for vehicles and commercial vehicle enforcement in the middle of the night, because that was one of the complaints, we had 326 different activities out there as far as speed and commercial vehicle enforcement. And then on top of that, we've had the speed trailer out there 29 different times. 13 of those times were since the last board meeting. And then we've also hung the radar boxes out there about 36 different times. So we're trying to pay attention to it. We're trying to educate people and enforce violations that we see. And we'll continue to work with Mr. LeBron to keep that road as safe as we can.
Thank you.
Have we issued any tickets, Chief?
Go back here. Most of the times that they've been out there, they haven't seen violations. There's been 8 citations and 54 warnings issued out of those 326 times that we were out there.
Yeah. Thank you, George.
Joel Mercurio.
Good evening, trustees and mayor. I just would like to, give you my, my personal, experience. Then I will ask the board to take a look at it. On the 21st of October, I witnessed somebody who consciously did park on a handicap parking spot by Jim Jensen in a pavilion. And I did personally ask that person to please leave that place. I have pictures here and everything, but the main thing is that, I would like to ask, the police to please, look at it and please do, I ask them to please do, their due diligence in enforcing the ADA law. Especially that person did not have any placard or any license. And, the problem was I called the non-emergency number and I was rerouted to 911. I called 911 and, I don't know the exact address. I said, I'm here in Jim Jensen Pavilion. They asked me. I ran to the front of it and said the address. To make the story short, I waited there because the 911 operator asked me to wait there. And, you know, the police came gladly, but it was after a long time. And, you know, I was told after a week that that person was just given a verbal warning. And when I asked that person, if you could please leave, or I'm eating my lunch. You know, I said, what if that person that is handicapped wants to park here? He said, oh, they can park somewhere else. There's a lot of parking spots there. You know, it was empty, sir. But, you know what? My thing is that I will ask the board if you could please take a look at the ADA, you know, resolution again, make sure that we are doing the job. I was taught that I trusted the police to do the right thing. I have to leave because I have to take my child away I have to pick up my child. You know, I felt that the police did not do their enforcement. They're supposed to enforce the law. Mm-hmm. It says there, no parking, reserved parking, $250 fine. That person consciously did it, you know, knowing that. And
we'll make sure we look at them closer now. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Anyone else? Do you have any other on the list? All right, standing committee reports. First standing committee report, Building and Zoning Committee, Chairman Reinke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing left on Building and Zoning.
Thank you, Chairman Reinke. Community Economic Development Committee, Chairman Gansey.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item here. We have a letter of intent from John Thomas, the CEO and principal of TOT Holdings, LLC, on behalf of Jet Foods to purchase 4.03 acres of vacant land that's owned by the village. It's pursuant to the village's business attraction efforts for a second grocery store to serve our community. The offer is for $500,000. And the letter of intent has been reviewed and revised by the village attorney, and Mr. Thomas agreed to the revisions.
All right. Is Bert or anyone going to walk us through this?
I didn't hear what you said, Mayor.
Is anyone going to walk us through this, or are we just going to take a look at it ourselves and have some discussion, or what?
It's a letter of intent from the owners of Jet Foods. They are expanding in the Illinois region. They have a store that will be opening shortly on Army Trail and County Farm. I visited that location with Scott and met the owners, and they're very encouraged about Bartlett. Tony, is there anything that you would like to add? Tony's been working with them diligently. We showed them a few sites in Bartlett, and the 59 and Lake Street site was the one that they liked the best.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
That's an excellent summary. I can't add much to that. Besides, we've been working closely trying to get them to take a hard look at some sites in the village, and they like what they saw in terms of demographics and the traffic flow, and made an offer, as you see before you. This is a preliminary step prior to entering into a sales contract and going through the zoning process.
It allows them access to the property to do their due diligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and make the motion?
Yes, so I move to approve resolution 2020-103, a resolution approving the letter of intent between TOT Holdings, 1 LLC, and the Village of Bartlett.
Second?
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Trustee Gansey, seconded by Trustee Carbonaro. Is there any additional discussion?
Be very, very thankful to potentially have a second grocery store in the village.
Yeah.
So tired of hearing about it, so let's hope this moves forward.
Good. Anything else? Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Hopkins? Reinke?
Abstain.
Sawansky?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Chairman Gansey. Finance and Golf Committee, Chairman Daney.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only item we had on the agenda this evening was covered under consent.
License and Ordinance Committee, Chairman Hopkins.
Mr. President, Wallace. Item D1 was covered under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkins. Police and Health Committee Chairman Carbonaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item E1 was covered under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Carbonaro. Public Works Committee Chairman Swansky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Items F1 and 2 were covered under consent.
Thank you, Chairman Swansky. We do have 2 items, other than anything else anyone would like to talk about that are on new business. We'll be creating a delicious Crepes and Roti Class A liquor license, which has been requested. Everything's been submitted, I'm assuming, and in order. And Magnolia's Weddings and Events Class A liquor license request.
Nope.
So, let's see here. So I will entertain a motion to approve the Class A liquor license.
So moved.
Application submitted by Delicious. Moved by Trustee Daney.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Gansey. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Gansey?
Yes.
Hopkins? Reinke? Swansky?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the Class A liquor license application submitted by Magnolia's Weddings and Events.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Daney, seconded by Trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk again please call the roll?
Trustee Hopkins? Reinke? Swansky?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
The motion carries. I intend to issue those licenses as they were requested. Does anyone else have anything under new business they'd like to discuss?
I just would like to, I know we've talked about it before, maybe staff could put something together for next year's budget. We can talk about brush pickup and how we can modify the program.
Amen.
Actually, we're, I think, and Sam, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the garbage contract is coming up, and we've done some research and putting together an RFP for brush pickup. So Sam, if you want to mention that.
Yes, that's correct. Tyler is just finishing up the RFP in Public Works, and we're going to be getting that out shortly.
Good deal. Good point, Trustee Hopkins. Not a week that goes by that I don't hear it, especially this time of year. Anything else under new business? Any questions or issues for staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Daney, seconded by Trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Carbonaro?
Yes.
Daney? Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Hopkins? Reinke?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.